Sounds like I have attention deficiency syndrome. I cannot stay with a single thing very long. I would also like to add that Dr. Altenkirk has done something that's very important to those of us that spent thousands and thousands of hours in this place, coaching over there, out here. And I want to personally thank you for saving our hockey program. That is very dear to me and something that will always be appreciated. And I would also add, you'd only have to go around the country very few times to pick up pretty quickly that it is something that distinguishes this campus from many, many other places, and it's always been a source of pride of my involvement. I have talked to a lot of people about giving graduation or commencement speeches and basically get no ideas and a lot of bad ideas that you might want to consider implementing. So the first thing I did is I said, okay, I know you're inquisitive, I know you're smart students, and I'm sure you have some probing questions. It was the same questions I've had every time I've attended a commencement speech. One, who am I? Why am I here? How did I get a degree? How am I going to get a degree for doing nothing? And how long am I going to get talking to you? My question back is I have no idea why I'm getting ready to make a commencement speech to people that are 1/3 of my age. I have very little in connection with your youth group and the age of people yours, so I appreciate you taking the time to listen. And it's one who has attended many graduations. I'm fairly sure, and this is repeated over, nobody's going to remember what I say, who I am, or why I'm here. But at the same time, you asking the question, if that's the case, why are you making me do this? Why are you having to listen? I am convinced, having been around the academic world a little bit as a trustee, that this is the way that the academic world tortures you the last time before they turn you loose. Again, nobody knows what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, and you will walk out of here. That's the end of it. As I searched the internet, which is the source of all information, to find something to talk about, I came across many, many commencement speeches. There are hundreds given every year. Despite my best efforts, I couldn't find any that I wanted to plagiarize. And for the faculty members, please don't report me for things that I'm going to say here, because I'm not attributing everything to somebody, even though somebody else said it. So I've compiled some random thoughts and suggestions that I find helpful as I have gone through my getting to be very elderly life. Since I don't know where a lot of them came from, I'm going to do them without attribution, but here it goes. By the way, we've worked out a system with my former fellow trustees, which ones are meant to be funny, so I encourage you, if they laugh, you laugh. Remember, they have the final say-so whether you get your degree or not. A lot of these are random, as I mentioned. You can count on the small-minded to object to great ideas. You're going to have many great ideas, and many object when you try to sell those ideas. Just ignore them, move past them, pat them on the head, and send them on their way. Avoid self-pity. Your worst day is far better than the best day for the hungry child living in a place without hope. Never underestimate the power of the uninformed. Unfortunately, they do vote in large numbers. They're catching on to which ones are supposed to be. Don't expect people to be fair because you're fair to them. That's like expecting the lion not to eat you just because you didn't eat him. Hate, anger, and revenge are like cancer. They will eat you alive. The first rule of leadership, take more than your share of the blame and less than your share of credit. The truth of the matter, you do not have to worry about that being a rule, because that's what those around up you're going to do anyway. Do not confuse silence with agreement. You can't control who comes into your life, but you can control which window to throw them out of. Compromise is not a sign of weakness. It reflects one's appreciation of the opinion of others and the need to include them in the solution. Apparently, Washington does not consider this something they should be doing to all of our detriment. Avoid arguments with those people who get all of their news from a single cable news channel. If they were interested in others' opinions, they would change the channel. And I believe this is Martin Luther King, but I'm not sure. War is poor chisel for carving out a peaceful tomorrow. Unfortunately, we now have guided missiles and misguided men that think war should be the first response to disagreements. If you think you're at the top of the food chain, spend a few days in the cage with a hungry tiger and see who comes out of the bottom. Dream things as they should be and say, why not? That's a variation of something George Bernard Shaw said. Dogs are better than people. Even the Pope thinks they're not going to heaven. I am not sure about cats. You've got 7 holes. By the way, I got this one from a professional hockey player, so it means a little bit. You've got 7 holes in your head. Keep 6 open and 1 shut, and you'll do well in life. And just so you have forgotten, don't trip when you cross the stage. And finally, never ever accept an invitation to give a commencement speech. That's not really the end. I got another 20 minutes. No. I started at UAH in a strange decade for our nation. In a span of just 54 months, President Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King, and Robert Kennedy were assassinated. Civil rights workers were being beaten and killed throughout the South by those that were the worst of mankind. A church bomb just 100 miles south of here took the lives of 4 young ladies that were there to worship. We were in a very unpopular war that took the lives of more than 50,000 young Americans. Think about that number. Many of them were planning on going here. Several of them I went to high school with. Somehow in the midst of all this hatred and craziness, President Kennedy called on the nation to take man to the moon and return him safely before the end of the decade. He challenged the best and the brightest. People saw the impossible as possible. People asked, why not go to the moon? And they got there in less than 8 years. And if you think about those that have been around the space program, what a miraculous feat that was. I happened to look up these numbers recently. They sent this vehicle that was made down the road. It was almost a football field tall. When it was fully loaded, it was 5 million pounds. And in about 12 minutes, it was traveling at 24,500 miles an hour. That's done by those people that surround you and are part of UAH. It was America at its best, and most of the space program was centered less than 1 mile from our campus. Sometimes I've had people say, well, that's so long ago, well, let's think about it. Maybe it's not. Watch on TV how many ads refer to the space program when they refer to the quality of their products. Look at the fact that no other country has been able to get there. Look at the fact that we now are considering a new program to Mars and beyond on the Orion. You think of all the technologies that came out of that. It is one of those things that it will always be considered one of the most important moments in the history of mankind. I have said this before, that it's amazing that we had 2 Alabamas going on at that time. We had the situation south of here where people were being hung, children being killed, and one of the most important technology events occurring just 100 miles away. I don't think you can reconcile those 2 situations. But the space program and those that made it successful are part of the DNA of UAH. Much of what UAH is today is because of those who reached for the stars and said, why not? They wanted a strong research university and challenging programs in engineering, the sciences, the arts, and humanities. Sometimes we forget some of those things, like the symphony in Huntsville, a result of those people that moved to our community from another country and said, this is part of being a quality community. But most of all, what they wanted out of UAH was to produce students who saw difficult challenges as opportunities. Graduates who do complicated things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. UAH has given you the tools to accomplish great things. Now it is your turn to say, why not? Congratulations on your graduation, and charge on.